say up front, so I don't get caught up in the presentation and forget to thank you. And I know many of you wanted to be home, and we'll get you home as quickly as you can so you can watch the World Series and see potentially an Ohio team win it all. That resonates with a lot of you. Yeah. I'm Troy Glover, and I'm with a company called Fanning Howey. We're working in partnership with Immersion. It's a local company, and we've been charged with developing the district's facility master plan. Joining me tonight, and I'm going to be doing most of the talking, but if I need some help, Christy and Chad are going to jump in. Also, there's another person that was at the desk when you came in, Terry, and Terry's also with Fanning Howey. But we have enjoyed the experience thus far, and we're sure that it's going to be an enjoyable experience to the end. Just meeting with different individual schools and talking to the community has been great thus far. We also have some representatives of the board here tonight, and I'm not going to ask them to introduce themselves, but if you could just stand or raise your hand so we can see who you are. Thank you for coming and supporting this effort tonight. Also, we have some representatives from the district, and if you would just raise your hand so we can see who you are. All right. Thank you, guys. We're happy to see you tonight. Some of you have met because you were part of the conversation at your individual schools. This mouse is really fast. So just to kind of give you an overview of tonight's agenda is what I'm making now as part of the opening remarks and introductions. I'm going to do a short presentation on the facility master planning process, but the bulk of this meeting and the meat of this meeting is this facilitated group questioning exercise, and that's really going to provide us with an opportunity to hear from you as the community. And you actually get to use these little devices, and your results will show up in real time. So we'll get to see what you're thinking tonight as we are looking for some feedback from the broader community, from you as the community. You know, all of you are aware of the schools in the area, but we wanted to acknowledge the 7 schools that exist within the Little Miami School District. That's been 6 active schools, and Morrow being the 1 closed facility. To talk about the process, we went through the interview process, and we were selected from among several firms that the board interviewed. So when we started this process, we met with the district. We wanted to ensure that we were on the same page with what the scope of our services. We wanted to understand what our roles and responsibilities are, and we also wanted to know who would be our point persons as we were collecting the information, needed information to help us make informed decisions and to really facilitate this process. We then began the process of data collection. We've had, and actually I was a part of the team that did that, we did educational adequacy evaluations. And we weren't evaluating the educational program of each school. That really involved looking at determining how well the school supports the educational program of that particular school. So we had some great conversations with staff because they not only looked at it and shared with us what's currently happening at their school, but what they anticipate for the future. And that really helped us understand what their needs might be. Another part of the process was evaluating the physical condition of each school. So there was a team of architects and engineers that went through every school and evaluated its condition. That process was a very extensive process. There's a lot of data that was collected in that process, and that information is being organized and summarized, and in our next community meeting, we'll present the findings of those evaluations. And there was other information that we looked at, enrollment, and some of that I'll present to you tonight. Other information we'll present as part of the December community meeting. About 2 weeks ago, because we felt it was important to hear from the Morrow community, we had a meeting in this very room, and the whole purpose of that meeting was to talk about Morrow Elementary and the future of that building and site. and you gave some very good information. There were some questions that were written that you provided us. There's been a response prepared for all of those questions. It's been posted to the district's website. We do have some hard copies. If you didn't pick a copy up when you came in, there are some at the sign-in desk. So we do have prepared a response for all those questions, for the questions that we received. And now we are at community meeting number 1, and the whole purpose is to review some information with you, to talk about the master planning process. But as I said earlier, the main part of this meeting is to gather input, some input from you as the community. Fast mouth. So the next part of this is we'll take the information that we gather tonight, along with the information that we've been collecting and analyzing, and we'll develop some options or scenarios of what the future of the Little Miami School District might look like. We'll take those options and recommendations, and we'll present those to you at the December 6th community meeting. And we'll give you an opportunity to give us feedback and input on those options. And I'm kind of making it seem like not a major, but it is a major step to go and analyze and go through all of this information to make some sense of it and come up with some logical options. And we'll present that to you, get your feedback. Once we receive your feedback, we'll proceed to develop the final facility master plan that we'll share with the district administration and get their feedback. And the final step in this process would be to present that facility master plan to the Board of Education. So one of the pieces of information that we looked at is historic enrollment. Because if you're developing a facility master plan, you need to know how many students you're planning for. And when we look at historic enrollment, we like to look at 10 years of data. If you look at 5 or less, there could have been an anomaly that threw enrollment, that caused enrollment to go up or down, and you really wouldn't see those, be able to pick that out. But looking at 10 years of data, and we know that with the transition in 2 of those years, that caused some enrollment to go down, and that was in the school years 2010 and 2011. So that's 10-11, the school year 10-11 and 11-12. So looking at this historical enrollment, we said, looking at this 10-year period, that from 2006 to the current year, that your enrollment increased by 849 students. And I don't want you to take that lightly, because remember I said for the school year 2010, 11, and 11-12, because of that takeover, you lost 500 students. And even in losing 500 students, that over the 10-year period, you still grew by almost 1,000 students. That's pretty remarkable. It speaks a lot volumes of your district as well. And we broke it out by grade level at the high school. The high school during that period grew by about 227 students. The junior high, 188 at the elementary, 286. And you saw a huge increase in preschool. And there was some other category, and that increased by about 47 students. So that makes up that 849 student growth over that 10-year period. Then we started looking at, and the historic enrollment was just one factor that we looked at when developing the district's projected enrollment. We looked at housing. We got a lot of information from the county. So there's a lot of information that we looked at. And one thing that we looked at as a part of our doing those projected student enrollment is grade to grade movement. Like how many total students was in grade 1? And we went to grade 2, how many of those students transferred? We did that throughout. So that was one part of it, and we did that for 5 years. That was one part of our effort. We did not use the years 2010 10 and 11, and that school year 2010-11 as well as 2011-12, and I think I've talked about that a lot, so you understand why we did that. And for this school year, that those enrollments are changing. I mean, students are still coming in. I think 3 additional students enrolled in the district just today. I think about 12 enrolled last week. So your district is constantly growing. And so when we talk about the 2016-17 enrollment, it's based on when we got that enrollment, what it was on that day, that time. But we're anticipating that to increase throughout the school year. And we anticipate that growth in the district will continue at the post-recession rate. And that's, the last part of that sentence, if housing go up and the cost becomes cost prohibitive, that may have an impact on additional students. So we want to make a note of that as a side note, but everything that we've looked at, it indicates that you'll continue to have growth at the rate that we're witnessing right now. And then that final kind of assumption is growth is also predicated on current prices and availability of land. We are doing a GIS analysis to examine this, to study this a little bit more. So at the next meeting, that will be complete, and we'll be able to present you even more information on that number 5 assumption that we made.
What's GIS?
GIS it's Geographic Information System, and we take large amounts of information, we put it into this program, and it allows us to display it graphically. It also allows us to study. It's a powerful tool. And it's used by a lot of cities and counties and states today. So when we did your projected enrollment, did projections for Little Miami School District, you can see that enrollment is anticipated to continue to grow. And based on the factors that we've looked at today, as conditions currently exist, that we anticipate in the next 10 years that you can possibly increase by almost another 2,000 students. It's a constant growth. You saw historically what has happened, and all those trends seem to be still in play. Nothing is changing. So if this holds out, you'll get almost 2,000 student growth in the next 10 years. So this is another way of looking at what has happened. You look at the historic enrollment, you see the dip in the school years 2010 and 11. It dropped, but then it started going up. And the red line indicates those projections that we developed. The green line represents, if you look at the current capacity, how many students can you currently accommodate at your schools? And although that red line, that green line shows the capacity, but if we were to break that out and look at it by the different grade levels, you're really at capacity at your elementary schools. Those schools are full. And you have some capacity at the high school, at the junior high, a little bit of capacity at the high school, the junior high, and the intermediates. And those are your newer buildings. So you have a little bit more capacity at those. But that shows you the impact as you look at those projections, what you have in terms of space that you can accommodate students versus how many students that you have. And you can see that just keep growing year by year. The other factor we looked at, and I talked about the educational adequacy, and some of the individuals that we met with are in the room tonight. But we wanted to understand the educational program at each school site. And as you talk about what what's happening at each schools, do you have the right kinds of spaces to support what you're doing academically? And, I have to make this statement here at the outset that I was very impressed as I met with the administration and teachers at each school site, that no one complained about what they had. They were making use of whatever space they had. They made their programs work in the space that they had. At one school, they had a lot of work going on in the hallways because that's the space that they had. I mean, that's the only space they had. So I think the teachers and administrators in this district are doing a phenomenal job of using what they have to provide for the students. I mean, they truly believe that education is their top priority, and they're going to do whatever they can to educate the students. So when we look at educational adequacy, I mean, there's a lot of factors that influences the rating of a school. We look at the size of classrooms. We look at the number of classrooms. We look at the type of classrooms. We look at daylighting and indoor air quality. And there's been a number of studies that talks about the benefits of daylighting, talks about the benefit of temperature, and a lot of those factors. So we look at all of that when we're evaluating the educational adequacy of schools. And we use a rating system of 1 to 5 to rate each school, with 1 representing very poor in terms of educational adequacy, and 5 is excellent. And the thing that I want to make sure that I comment on, the physical assessment of each school talks about the condition, but to get schools to a certain educational standard, that may be another cost factor. If they don't have enough of the right size spaces, if we wanted to bring buildings up to a certain educational standard. So when we evaluated and met with staff, I'll get used to this mouse slide again. So that's, and I remember I told you in terms of a 1 to 5. And you may look at those first 3 schools, Little Miami, the high school, the junior high, and the intermediate, and you would say, those are new buildings. Why didn't they receive a 5? When you think about education and how programs have changed over the years, when they were built, they were current for what was happening at that time. Programs have changed dramatically over the 10 or more years that some of these buildings have been in existence. So they're doing a great job, so there's some changes that have occurred in terms of how you're delivering education and the kinds of spaces you need to support your educational program. So that's why those schools did not receive a maximum of 5. I mean, they're great buildings. All of them are great buildings, but there are just some things that have changed since they were constructed. And then when we looked at your elementary schools and we talked to staff, and here again, I can't emphasize enough that how they're making use of what they have. But when they start looking at some of the various components of their buildings and the space that they need, is that, some of the right kinds of spaces may not exist. I mean, typically you wouldn't deliver music or art in a portable. I mean, you have a different kind of space. So you have those situations going on, and some small group instruction and reading, and some of those things are occurring in hallways. Or if you look at some of the special ed spaces, they have converted some space to meet those kinds of special needs in school buildings. So there's a lot of things that staff is just converting, using the space that they have to accomplish what they need. So when I look at, when you start thinking about a 21st century school and what a 21st century school looks like, some of these older buildings may fall short of those standards. So that's how the schools came out. Your newer schools, I would rate them a 4. The older schools, I would give them a 2 out of 5. So now we get to the part, I think, that all of you guys, that we want to get information from you. And I'm going to solicit my team to help. type of programs that are being, that they're doing. I mean, there's some project-based learning things that are being done, different kinds of educational programs they're doing, different kinds of small group, large group spaces that they may not have. Those kinds of things is where they are falling short.
Is it not true? Is it not true that the state of Ohio is implementing certain programs within the local school system that's mandating that these things have to be offered to these students, but they're not supplying any funds to support it? They have to come out of the local.
Take one and pass it down.
That would cause that negative drop down to 4 instead of 5.
Well, someone in the school system would be better to answer that question.
I mean, I've dealt with school systems all my life, and I know from dealing with the school system I was in, if the state comes in and says, you have to have the No Child Left Behind, and these certain programs, but they're not funding them. But that comes out, and that takes away from the program.
Yes.
Back to your answer, you said a certain space is required for a certain educational process or procedure.
I'm sorry?
In that newest building,
Where's all taken care of?
there
Give it back to
wasn't
them.
space for any kind of educational activity.
Well, like, I gave the example of small, like small group spaces where they want to have more spaces for small group work, small group instruction they don't have. When they start looking at large group spaces, when they want to bring multiple classes together for instructional purposes, they don't have those spaces. So those are some examples of things that they don't have that the schools would like to have more of. One more question, and I'll take that, and then we're going to move on, but we do have index cards that I'll give, and we'll answer.
Would it be your opinion then that the reason that we have went from a 5 to a 4 on these newer buildings has nothing to do with the physical building, it's the environment for education?
Correct, yes, yes, yeah. They're in great condition.
Well, that's actually the case for all of these. I mean, that's all we looked at with those numbers was the educational adequacy. Those numbers don't reflect at all the physical condition. That was a totally separate assessment.
Yes, and that's what I said, we'll present it at the
Well, but
next
in your
meeting.
facts, you had air conditioning, air quality, that's why I asked the question.
Because that does
You-
affect,
Yeah,
that does
Yes.
affect the learning environment.
it does, but
That one
physically
kind of
they're
hits
in good
both.
shape.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. So the questions that we're going to ask now, does everyone have a clicker? So I'll tell you, there's no way that we can know how you respond. And this is just simply a polling to give us a sense of what the community is thinking around some questions as we move in this process. So I would encourage you to be honest. There's no way. The only way we could tell how one of you respond is that we would have to number each of these clickers and give you a specific number. So there's no way that we can tell. It's strictly anonymous. And I have kind of a fun question to start the process. And again, we talked about this earlier. Who will win the World Series? And there's a number up, so I can see how many responses: 17, 22, 25, 31, 39, 41. 45. All right, going once, going twice. I am going to see how. So how do you think this is going to come out? Well, yeah, can you hit enter on my computer? There you go. All right. that's gonna win this. Is it gonna happen tonight? All right. All right, so the second question. Which of the following best describes your relationship to the Little Miami School District? And if for some reason you select the wrong thing, whatever you select last is what's going to be recorded. So if you're a parent or guardian of a current Little Miami School District student, then you would select 1. And it just goes down the line. If it's a 10, then you press 0 represents 10. Now, the last time we had about 45. Some people are still thinking. We have 42, 44. One person still thinking, still reading. All right, there we go. All right, wow. 49% of parents are guardian of a current Little Miami student. That's great. We'll move on to the next question. What is your gender? All right, that was an easy one. What is your age? And remember, there's no way we can tell whatever you select. So be honest. We have more. Okay. The majority of the years between 49 and 49. Wow. We got a few. I didn't think no one over here looks more over 65. You guys are just. All right. Next question. How many children ages 5 to 18 do you have? Okay, some people are still counting. It's yours. How many do you have? In between 5 and 18. So then you put 6. Okay. Okay. See, you guys have it picked it up pretty quickly. Select current grade levels of your children. And this is one, you can select more than one. All right. Oh, wow. Okay. Good even distribution. 40% none. Which of the following issues do you believe should be the top priority for Little Miami School District to work on during the next 5 to 10 years? 1, improve school facilities to enhance student learning. 2, improving the financial position of the district via cost savings from more efficient operations. Three is no opinion yet. No. I feel you're still thinking. All right, looks like I'm gonna going once, going 2, twice. We're gonna go ahead. Improve school facilities to enhance student learning. Next question. What is your overall opinion of the physical condition of Hamilton Maineville Elementary School? Okay, we're going to look at the results here. Fair condition. Same question, but it's for Heartland Butlerville Elementary School. Going once. We are going to look at the results. Fair came out again. Same question for Morrow Elementary.
Is that Salem?
No, this is actual Morrow. It is Morrow. All right, some people are still thinking. We are going to proceed and look at the results. Anyone want to elaborate on why they believe it's excellent?
Because they don't know which one it is.
Anyone want to claim that response?
All right. Now Salem. Same question, but for Salem Elementary. Is someone still thinking, or going once, going twice, and we are going to look at the see the results. Okay. The majority said fair here again. So now we're going to move into the intermediate. Same question, it's just for the intermediate.
You've got polling closed. Open the polling.
They're not turning green anymore.
All right, I need to run to my
Open
computer.
the polling.
Yeah. I need to, there we go. All right, we have some people still thinking. All right, let's, there we go. Okay, so now we move to excellent. Same question for the junior high. honestly, I'll tell you guys, I'm deliberately not having discussion on these, because this is really a polling to get your opinion, and we'll look at your responses. And now the high school. Okay. So now the questions are going to shift a little bit, and we're going to start looking at a different kind of question. So when choosing a school district for your child, which is most important? And in this particular question, you can choose up to 3. Whatever the last 3 items that you select, numbers, those would be your choices. So is it start time? Is it location? Is it the condition of the building? Education program? Administrators and staff? Sports, athletic programs, facilities, safety, overall size of the school? Okay, great. Okay, educational program. Seems to have gotten a lot of support. Administrators and safety. Those were the top 3 responses. All right, in your opinion, now we're going to start thinking.
This is what I have to pull this up.
What Christian's going to provide you with, she's gathered some information on neighboring and comparable school districts, and she's just going to provide you with some information on their overall enrollment and the size of the different schools. You're going to see, when she pulled this information up, there's some things in parentheses. That just tells you that's how many schools are in that category. For example, at the elementary school at Fairfield City, there's a 5 in front of the 700 to 900, so that just means they have 5 of those schools.
So the reason I put this together was so that you could kind of put it in context with other school districts. If you've been to other buildings in other school districts and you might wonder, ooh, that felt like a good size, or oh, that felt really big, I don't want to be that big. I'm hoping that this will allow you to put it in context a little bit better. And then I also listed the total square miles that make up a school district, because that is one thing that's pretty unique to Little Miami, being that you are 100 square miles, where most districts are not that size. So when we're looking at master plan and we're talking about how many schools, size of the school district is a factor, because obviously that weighs into transportation time and things like that. And then at the bottom is Little Miami's stats. If you wanted to refresh yourself on the current enrollment here at Little Miami and what we're projecting in year 2020, 2025, and 2030.
You're talking K through 6 or 1 through 6?
Yeah.
Up to
Feel
6th
free to
grade,
come and
because
walk
there's a
up
different,
and
up to
look
grade
if you
6.
need
Including
to.
preschool?
Yeah,
Or
we'll
just K through 6 or what?
Yeah, we need that clarified. Is this
Because we have
building that we're
preschool and
talking about
kindergarten.
going to house students from kindergarten through 6th grade, or is it just?
We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. We went up to, we don't know. We just said up to grade 6 because of the different grade arrangements. So we just said up to grade 6.
So how
So
many
what
per building
question are you
regardless?
asking?
Yeah,
So you
so
asking
Jo-
about preschool, kindergarten, and 1st through 6th?
What they're
What-
asking is, if you have 1,500 kids in K through 6, should you put them all in one building, or can you only put 500 kids in a building, so you need that separated into 3 buildings, or do you need it, how many kids per
This is just
building?
saying if for an elementary school building, just an elementary
Yes,
school
no.
building,
You're saying up through 6th grade, I mean.
an elementary school building that houses kids from 6th grade and under. Okay?
It's an unknown.
What?
It's an unknown.
Okay.
It depends on building space available, staff.
No. I'm not, no. We're not talking about, just in the ideal scenario, for an elementary school building,
How many
what's the
students?
maximum enrollment you would want to see in an elementary school building? That's the question.
So what you want to know is how many people we put in a building before you need to build another one.
What is the maximum enrollment
Physically.
that you feel is appropriate?
No matter what grade level.
No matter what grade, no matter what, for elementary age.
For elementary.
For elementary age. We're not asking this for junior high or high school.
But no matter whether it's a combination.
Well, because we don't know.
or
We don't know what the, we could have asked this for, each individual grade, but then it would have.
So regardless of configuration, how many kids under the grade of 6
Yes.
do you want in one building?
Yes.
So you have
Yes.
56 pupils in one grade, you divide 6 into 400.
We don't know that there would be one, we don't know that the building would have K through 6. It could be a K through 2 building, it could be a 4 through 6 building, it could be a 5 and 6 building. Which is, what's the ideal size for an elementary school?
Yes.
You don't have a choice in that. The smallest class size you got is 6 to 6.
Not class size.
Not class size, school size.
Just overall school enrollment size. We are not specifying what grades go into this building. For an elementary school,
Just,
is there,
And can you tell us how many students are enrolled when you did elementary school?
okay, so the current elementary schools for Little Miami, the smallest is Butlerville at 240. The largest is 1,192, which is Salem. Salem has pre-KK and 3 and 4. So you have a very wide range going from 240 to almost 1,200. What we're trying to figure out, what we're asking you, is what is the ideal size?
yeah, in your opinion, if you're thinking about an elementary school, just thinking in your opinion, when you think of the number of students, what do you think is the maximum number of students that should be in one elementary school?
Can you, I think that was a really cool statistic for frame of reference.
Yes.
How many students are currently in the building in Butlerville? How many students are currently in the building in Maineville and Salem?
Okay.
Because I feel like that lets you.
Yep. Okay, so to repeat that, we have 3 elementaries here in Little Miami. Oh, that would help. All right, so we have 3 elementaries in Little Miami. We have Butlerville, which is your smallest. That's sitting at an enrollment of 240. And Greg, please correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm going off of these for memory. Salem is your biggest at 1192. Okay, Salem has pre-KK, and it has grades 3 and 4, all under one roof. Maineville is at 450, so that one's falling right in the middle, okay? And then the chart, you can see where your neighboring school districts fall with regards to their typical elementary school size.
What is the
If
number
you
in
would
the
have asked
parentheses?
what's the max class size, like everybody in the building.
That's a different,
That's a different
question. You're talking about how many kids are literally in each classroom? That's a different question.
What does each person in this building think is an appropriate class size?
We have that question. I think we have that question. We don't have that question?
This answer, just
In K4, the state of Ohio doesn't allow any more than 25 to 1 in an elementary classroom. 5th and 6th, we're running about 30 to 1 at this point, but there's a requirement from the state that class sizes be no larger than 25 to 1 in a classroom.
So for the sake of this question, since it's elementary, per state, every grade through 5th grade has to be 25 or less. So we had a question about the parentheses on the chart over here with the school districts. What's in parentheses is the number of schools that they have in that category. So if we look at Fairfield, the top one, they have 5 elementary schools that range from 700 students to 900 students. Yeah.
I
Yes.
With pre-K, K being in there, so there's never 1192 at the same time?
Yes. Oh. At Salem, the 1192 would be for. Correct. So, yes, so for Salem, all at one time, the number would be slightly less than 1192. Is everybody good now with their answers, such that we can pull them up? Okay.
All right. Okay, so up to 600 seems to be what this group thinks. All right, now the same question we're asking for junior high.